this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make an odd peyote tubular spiral. And this is the pattern that I've used, and this is the pattern I'm going to show you. You can change the way things look by the order of beads that you put on. Like you can make a spiral like this one if you use 2 beads of each color and then 1 single bead of another color. And you can do this particular look like I did today by using 3 beads of one color, 3 beads of another color, and then a little rondell crystal or just another 8-0 seed bead of another color. So it is odd count, so you're going to start with an odd number of beads. We're going to be using 7 beads for this one, for our diameter. And I'm going to show you how to end it. You can make this as long as you want. It can become a necklace. It doesn't have to be a bracelet. You'll end it the same way. You can use any type of clasping you want. I'm going to use a toggle today. Let me go ahead and put this on my wrist. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll look at what we need for this project. This is what it looks like on the wrist. Here's the clasping. And the one I'm making today is about 7 inches, a little over 7 inches actually. And I will show you how to judge the length that you want during the video. So let's go ahead and look at what we need to make this project. Okay, for this project today, we are going to be using 3 colors of beads. Now, I am going to be using a black 3x2 Chinese crystal rondell. You can use another 8-0. You do not have to use a crystal if you do not want to, but that is what I'm going to use for my 3rd color, is a 3x2 crystal rondell. Then I'm going to use 2 colors of 8-0 seed beads. I'm going to use an opaque blue turquoise toho and a galvanized silver tone toho. And you will need a few 11-0s, 8 to be exact. I'm going to use a toho also for my 11-0, and it is also a opaque turquoise, blue turquoise color. It's got a little bit of an AB finish. And then you'll need a toggle clasp. I'm just using this small fancy silver tone toggle. You will also need some Fireline. I am using 8-pound Fireline in the smoke color. And then you will need a size 10 or 12 beading needle. Now, a size 10 is going to work better with 8-pound Fireline. You can also use 6-pound Fireline with a size 12 beading needle. You can also use 10-pound or 8-pound nanofill. An 8-pound will work with a size 12 beading needle also. However, I'm going to use 8-pound and a size 10 beading needle today. Then you will want to thread onto your needle about a yard of Fireline. You will need to extend your Fireline during this project. So if you want to use more from the beginning so that you have to extend less often, then you can do that. However, it's easier to work with a shorter length of thread as you're learning the stitch. If you do not know how to add thread or how to extend your Fireline, please visit video number 4 on this channel. It will show you how to extend your Fireline or how to add thread if you're not using Fireline. However, I suggest Fireline. It's the simpler solution. Now, to start this project, let me get my camera rearranged. To start this project, you are going to pick up onto your Fireline I'm going to use my crystal, so I'm going to use 1 of 1 color. So if you have just 3 colors of 8-0s here, just pick up 1 of your first color, or pick up your crystal if you're using a crystal. Then pick up 3 of the, 3 of your next color, which is going to be my silver. So 3 8-0s, and then 3 of the next color, which is going to be my turquoise, like so. Then I'm going to drop it down to the end of my thread. Now, if you do not want to extend your tail to add your clasping, then leave a 12 to 14 inch tail. If you intend to extend your tail, then you don't have to leave a very long one. I'm going to extend mine, so I'm not going to leave a long tail, but enough to hold on to, and enough to extend. And then I'm going to go up through all of these beads from the tail side. So I'm going to go back through all of the beads I added. I'm going to hold on to my tail, I'm going to hold on to my beads, and I'm going to pull my thread through until it forms kind of a little half-shaped circle here. Let's get closer so you can see. Then I'm going to go back through, I'm coming out of this bead here, I'm going to go back through my crystal bead, just your first bead on your tail side. Hold on to your tail and pull the thread back through until you have what is a little circle, what is created into a little circle. And then I'm just pulling it forward to give myself a little bit more tail to extend here. So this is what you should have, just a little circle of beads like so. You're coming out of your one single color. You will notice I have 7 beads on here. This is an odd tubular peyote, odd count. So I'm using an odd number of beads, and you, even if you change your colors, if you do 2 of each color in your 6 beads here, you still have to have your 7th bead one single different color. It just makes your spiral turn out better. Now I'm going to pick up, since I'm coming out of my crystal, I'm going to pick up a crystal. You're always going to pick up the color and type of bead you're coming out of. So since I'm coming out of my black crystal, I'm going to pick up a black crystal. I am then going to skip over the next crystal in line and go into the one after that. So I'm going to go right into the next silver bead. I'm skipping one, going into the next one. I'm going to hold my thumb and forefinger over it so that I can just guide these beads down. Now this isn't going to lay perfectly on top of the silver bead yet. Just pull it down. Then I'm going to pick up my next silver bead because I'm coming out of a silver bead. So I'm going to pick up a silver bead. I'm going to skip this one here, and I'm going to go into the next bead, which is a turquoise bead. And I'm just going to pull this down. Right now you don't have to pull it really tight, just enough so that there's no slack. If your circle gets loose, just pull on your tail, and that will tighten your circle back up. Now I'm going to turn it slightly. I'm coming out of this turquoise bead. I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead and go into the next turquoise. So you're always going to skip one. You're going to pick up the color you're coming out of. You're going to skip the next one and go into the one after that, like so. And pull. And this is just going to look strange at first. This looks like a big mess. Now we're coming out of this blue bead here. We're going to pick up a blue bead. We're going to go right over the top of this black bead, and we're going to skip this silver bead here, and we're going to go into the black bead sticking up. Now this is an odd count tubular, so the reason we're skipping over is because there's no particular step up. Normally you'd step up into 2 beads to do your next row. In this one we're not going to. We're just going to skip over this turquoise. We're going to skip over this silver one because that's in our first row. We're going to go into the crystal in our second row, right here. So just skip over those 2 beads. That's going to be the confusing part for everybody. Once you've done that, your beads will start to kind of cup up, like so. Now we're coming out of this black bead right here. So we're going to pick up a black bead. We're going to look for the next sticking out bead. So we're going to skip over this silver one, skip over this silver one too because it's in the first row. It just looks like it should be the next bead to go into, but it is not. You have to go all the way over here and pick up that bead and pull your crystal down. Now you can see it's going to cup it up, and it's going to be more obvious which beads are sticking up and which beads you go into next. Now I'm coming out of the silver bead right here. I'm going to go into this blue bead right here, which is a broken bead, darn it. Oh well. I'm going to pull my silver bead down. Now I'm coming out of this blue bead, and you can see it's easy now. I'm going to go into the next sticking up bead. This one is recessed, so I'll pick up a blue, I'll skip over this one, I'll go into this one. Now that's the end of our row. However, we're not going to do any kind of sew through step up. We're just going to pick up another blue bead because we're coming out of a blue bead. We're going to go over the top of this black bead and go into the next one because it is sticking up, and it'll get more obvious as we do a couple more rows. Pull it down and tighten it up. Pull on your tail a little bit, pull on your working thread, tighten your stitches up at this point or it'll be a really sloppy spiral. Now I'm coming out of my black bead. You can see the recessed silver one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my black bead because that's what I'm coming out of. I'm going to skip over this recessed silver one, the one that's down, and go into the up silver right here. So we'll just keep spiraling around as we do this. No step ups, no any weird things, just sewing each bead that you're coming out of, you're picking up the next one, and you're going into the next high bead. So if I turn my bead sideways, you can see some of them are sticking up and some of them are down. Now I'm coming out of the silver bead, so I'm going to pick up a silver bead, and I'm going to go into the next sticking up bead, which is a blue bead. I'm going to pull the silver bead up, and I am going to tighten my thread. The first couple rows especially, make sure that you get your thread nice and tight. Then I'm going to pick up a blue bead because I'm coming out of a blue bead. You can see this one is down, this one is up, so I'll go into this one here and pull. Now I'm coming out of a blue bead. I'm going to skip this recessed bead here, go into the next sticking up black bead right here. Whoops, sorry. Hope I've been in frame. All right there. Now I'm coming out of my black bead. I'm just going to pick up a black bead, and I'm going to go into the next silver bead right here. Now you can see the way it's forming is I will have a row of like single silver, a row of single black, and then a bunch of turquoise. And that's just the way it works with the way that I arranged my colors on my thread. You can get all different combinations just depending upon how you arrange your colors. Now I'm coming out of this silver bead. I need to pick up a silver bead, go into the next bead sticking up, which is a blue bead. And then I'm coming out of a blue bead. I'm going to pick up a blue bead and go into the next blue bead. And you can see them now. They're standing up, so you can see one is down, one is up, and it's much easier to do the pattern now. Now I'm coming out of a blue bead. I'm going to skip over the top of this black bead, go into the sticking up black bead. Now I'm picking up a black bead because I'm coming out of a black bead, going over the top of this silver bead, and going into the sticking up silver bead. Just make sure that if your thread twists, you untwist it because you don't want a twisted thread. Now I'm coming out of the silver. I'll go into the next sticking up blue bead, pull my thread nice and tight. You can just kind of put it between your fingers and pull like so. Then I'm coming out of a blue bead. I'm going to skip this down blue bead, go into the next sticking up blue bead, and it will be the same all the way around. So now I'm coming out a blue bead. I'm going to go over the top of this crystal, go into the sticking out crystal here. Then I'm going to pick up a black bead because I'm coming out of a black bead, go into the silver bead. And that's the one thing you can mess up your spiral, is if you pick up the wrong sequence of colors as you're going around. Just always make sure that you pick up the color of bead you're coming out of. Then you will keep your sequencing correct. So now I'm going into my next blue bead. I picked up a silver bead, and I'm just going to continue all the way around. I'm coming out of this blue, go into this blue because it's sticking up, pick up a blue, go into the sticking up crystal, and you can see my spiral starting to form. When you get a little further along, this is what it looks like right here. So we will just continue doing the same pattern all the way around until we have... Okay, so I have gone to length, which my length is about 6.5 inches. You want to go about an inch short of the length you desire. So since I desire a little over 7 inches, I've gone to 6.5 inches. Now I am coming out of my silver bead here after finishing my last round. So I went ahead and put in my black bead here and came out of my silver bead. So now you can see that with uneven peyote, it's always a little uneven on the end. Some of your beads will be higher than your other beads. So when you end it, go ahead and your last bead, or your first bead you started with was the crystal. Go ahead and go through the silver bead right there, or whichever bead is after your crystal, or your one color bead that you put on if it's not a crystal. And then I'm going to sew through these top beads just to draw them together. So all the sticking up beads I'm going to go through. So this recessed bead right here, I'm going to pass over. I'm coming out of the silver. I'm going to go into this sticking up turquoise one. And then I'm going to pass over this recessed turquoise and go into the sticking up turquoise. And then I'm going to go into the sticking up black bead and the silver bead I started in, like so. And I'm just going to pull that rather tightly. And then I'm going to go underneath the thread bridge that's right here between the silver bead and the turquoise bead. And I'm going to tie a little knot. Pull it very tightly. This just draws your end together, like so. And then I'm going to go into this silver bead, or excuse me, this turquoise bead right here, so that I'm past my knot. I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and then an 8-0 seed bead. So I'm using my turquoise 11-0s and my silver 8-0, and I'm going to drop this down to my piece of work. And then I'm going to pick up my toggle end on my needle here, like so, and I'm going to drop it down. Now, let's get very close so you can see what I'm doing here. So, my 11-0, my 8-0, and my toggle are on my thread here. Now I'm going to just let my toggle drop and go back through my 8-0 seed bead and just the 8-0. Then I'm going to put my thumb over it and hold it against my finger and pull the toggle up, like so. And then I'm going to pick up another 11-0. Now I came out of this side of this turquoise bead. I'm going to go into the opposite side of the turquoise bead that I started in and go like so. Now, one more time, I'm going to sew through these 3 beads. Back up, I'm coming out of the 8-0 that I started in, that I'm attaching to. I'm going to go up into the 11-0 on the side that I'm exiting from, and the 8-0 seed bead. And then I'm going to go through my toggle. And then I'm going to go around my toggle, back into the 8/0, and then into the 11/0 on the other side of the 8/0 I'm attaching to. And pull this down, and then go into the 8/0 seed bead on my piece of work that I'm attaching to, like so. Now, you can see that it's just coming out of one end. We want to center this, so what we're going to do is we are going to go back up into the 11/0 and the 8/0 on the side that you're exiting from the bead you're attaching to. Go back up through your toggle, come back through the 8/0, and just the 8/0 and exit. Now pick up another 11/0 seed bead and go to the bead directly across, as close directly across as you can, and that's going to be my crystal. So I'm going to go into this crystal with my 11/0 seed bead. And then I'm going to pick up another 11/0 seed bead, and I'm going to go up through the 8/0 and the toggle. And now you can see I've made another little loop with my 8/0s and my thread, or with my 11/0s and my thread up through my 8/0 around this side, which is going to center my toggle. So now I'm coming out of the toggle. I'll go back into the 8/0 beneath it, and you don't want to pull it too tightly, the toggle, yet, because you need to get back through these beads. And then go into the 8/0 and the 11/0 on one side of the bead you're anchoring to, which would be this crystal here. And pull your thread through, go back through the crystal, go back through the 11/0 on the opposite side, and the 8/0 and the toggle. So I'm going to go through the 8/0 right here. Then I'm going to go through my toggle and pull this tightly so you don't see a whole bunch of thread. You're going to see a little, but then go back through your 8/0 and the 11/0 on the opposite side from which you started. So you're just reinforcing the beads there. Now my angle is funny, so I'm going to grab a pair of flat nose pliers to pull my needle through, just because my angle is odd. There we go. And now I'm coming out of this 11/0. I'm going to go back into the crystal I started in. And then all of the beads around the bottom that are part of your piece of work, this 8/0, so I'm coming out of this crystal, I'm going to go into this 8/0. So the beads that we originally sewed together, right when we started our clasping, we're going to sew back through. So I'm sewing through all these 8/0s right underneath my clasping. Now I am to the silver one here, and I am just going to pop down into the next layer of 8/0s right here. So this is the next, whoops, this is the next layer. Hopefully I was in focus. I just sewed around the 8/0s. Now I'm in the next layer of 8/0s into my crystal here. And I'm going to grab a thread bridge right here. So there's a little thread between the beads, and I'm going to make a loop by pulling my thread and then put my needle through the loop and pull it down. And then I'm just going to pop down into the next crystal and the next 8/0 and tie another knot on the thread bridge right here between these two blue 8/0s here. Then I'm just going to sew back into a couple more, and I'm going to cut off my thread. And then I'll just burn down my tail like so. And now you have a nicely clasped little end. And like I said, the end of a odd count tubular is always a little odd shaped. But if you pull it together like this, it doesn't look too bad. And you'll see a little bit of thread, but if you're using a thread that blends well with your beads, it helps a lot. And then on this end, we're going to do the same thing, but I didn't leave a long tail, so I am going to extend my Fireline, and then I'll come back and we'll sew these beads together and do the same thing. Okay, so now I have extended my Fireline. If you do not know how to do this, and you need to do this because you didn't leave a really long tail to put your other end of your toggle on, then visit video number 4 on this channel and it'll show you how to do that. And it is labeled video number 4. Okay, so now I have extended my thread, and what I'm going to do, I'm coming out of the crystal here, because that's where I started my weave. I am going to ignore the bead right next to it that's recessed, and I'm going to sew through the next up bead. And then again, I'm coming out of this turquoise bead. I'm going to ignore this one and go through the next up bead. Then I'm going to ignore this silver one and go through this silver and the first black bead I started in and pull it tightly together. This end doesn't want to pull together quite as well, so I'm going to go through this turquoise bead again, pull it tightly, and go through this silver bead here and pull it tightly, just to make sure that I'm actually getting it pulled together. See? Okay. Now I'm coming out of the silver bead. I am going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and then I'm going to pick up one of my silver 8-0s, and then I'm going to pick up my toggle. So I'll show you what I have. I've got an 11-0 and a silver. I'm going to drop it down, and then I'm going to go through my toggle. I extended my Fireline a little long there. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to go around the toggle clasp and just into the 8-0 seed bead and pull this down. Then I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and go back into this 8-0 here that I'm attaching to, the silver 8-0, right there. Then I'm going to sew through these beads again just to secure. So I'm going to go up through this turquoise bead, the 11-0, up through the 8-0, and through my clasp. And then back through the 8-0 and the 11-0 on the other side. And back through my 8-0 on my piece. Now we have to sew back up through the 11-0 on this side and the 8-0 here and through the clasp. Now we're just going to go through the 8-0, around the clasp, through the 8-0 and just the 8-0. And as I do this, I'm turning my piece a little bit so that I have the bead across from it exposed here, because now we want to anchor it to this side. So I'm going to anchor it to this crystal right here. I'm going to pick up an 11-0. I'm going to go through the crystal. Then I'm going to pick up an 11-0, and I'm going to go back up through this 8-0 right here and the clasp once I get through here. So now I've got an 11-0 on either side of my crystal. I'm coming out of the 8-0. I'm going to go through my clasp so that it anchors it, my thread here. And then I will go back through the 8-0 and the 11-0 here. Oops, wrong 11-0. So make sure that you're focused on which 8 or 11-0 it is, because once you come through, it can get confusing because I'm anchoring here and here. So I need to go through this 11-0 here once I come through my 8-0 and then back through my crystal. Sorry about that, guys, but everyone makes little mistakes. Just back out and do it again if you do that. Want to make sure that we anchor both sides really well because this gets a lot of tugging and pulling on it. So I've gone into this 11-0 here, the crystal, this 11-0. I'm going to go back up through my 8-0 under my clasping. And then through my clasp, back through my 8-0, and I'll just come back down through these 2 beads here. So I'm going to go through the 8-0, then I'll come back down through my 11-0 right underneath it, the one that's anchored to the crystal. And here again, you'll have a little funny angle, so you have to kind of use your flat nose pliers. It kind of traps the needle a little bit. Go through the crystal, and then I'm going to sew through all the 8-0s in the bottom layer here. So I'll sew through this 8-0 here. Let me turn it so you can actually see what I'm doing. So I'm coming out of this 8-0 now. I'm going to go into this one. I'm just sewing through the bottom circle here of 8-0s. And you can do that as much or as little as you'd like. I'm going to go down into this 8-0 here now and pull this together so it kind of tightens up where my thread looks funny there. And then I'm going to grab right on this thread bridge right here, and I'm going to make a knot by going back through it. Pull it tightly. Then I'll sew down into this crystal and down into some of the beads in the piece of work, just so that I can get away from my knot and maybe make another knot and just secure it. So I'm sewing into the next 8-0, and then I'm going to tie a knot here. Just make sure as you're sewing through that you don't sew in some strange, like don't skip from this bead all the way down to this bead or something crazy like that. Stay where your thread will stay hidden as you do this. Now I'm going to cut this off, leaving a tag of thread, and then I'm going to just put my lighter close to it, not light it on fire, but just melt it in, like so, which creates another stop. Now we can make sure this is gonna go through, like so. And that is your toggle. Now, if you find that your toggle doesn't want to go through very well, just for safety's sake, you can always put 2 8-0s on here and sew up through your clasp, just so that it makes it a little bit longer and gives it a little bit more room to go through your toggle. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put this on my wrist, and I'll show it to you. Here is what it looks like on my wrist. And there's my clasping. Now you can do this with any kind of clasping you want to use. Go ahead and sew through it the same way. You can use a lobster claw with a piece of chain, and just sew the chain on the way that you have sewn on the straight end of the toggle, and sew on a lobster claw on this side the same way that you sewed on this half of the toggle, and that works really well too. Toggles, when you have a wide bracelet like this, and you have a long skinny toggle, sometimes it makes it difficult to get in and out of the round part of the toggle. So, like I said, you can add 2 8/0 seed beads on the top and sew through this end of the toggle instead of just 1 8/0. Do your 11/0s exactly the same way, but have 2 8/0s that you slide through, just like you would do if you had 1 there, but you're going to go through 2. Same process, and that will make it a little easier to slide your toggle in and out, because otherwise you have to really organize yourself. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I really have to organize this and pull it through my round toggle to get this in and out. And it works, but you can make it easier by putting 2 8/0s on this side or using chain and a lobster claw or something like that. That will work too. But this is what this looks like. I hope it was easy to follow, and I hope you try one. They turn out really cute. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.